Never
And
done
how do you
before. It's
expect
felony
how do you
crime.
expect the
Then
American
he says
public
what?
to
He says that
respond?
thing about the 12
Sebastian,
jurors having to
Sebastian, if
unanimously
you just
agree.
carry on
I don't care
talking and
about
we can't
12
have a
jurors
conversation,
unanimously
it
agreeing. He
gets
said,
very
if
tedious.
4 of you, why do you not listen to my answers?
But
Why
because
do
you're
you
not
want to
listening to my
steamroll
questions.
this?
Bring in now Sebastian Gorka, who's former deputy assistant to the president.
Oh man, this is going to be really, really, really. I don't know what to say about this. But again, Sebastian's has been a former assistant to Donald Trump, and he's been defending Trump like nobody else has. I mean, he's been going in different podcasts and just roasting people and correcting people. And I love his attitude, though. He's got that old, old man base. I don't have time for shenanigan kind of attitude. So, yeah, but here is Kathie Newman. Kathie Newman, she's supposed to be doing an interview at this time, right? She's supposed to be interviewing the man. And I think when you bring somebody to your panel, you're interviewing the individual. You care about their response so much. You're not supposed to be debating them, right? You don't do what is it, Caitlin Collins did with Donald Trump when they went to CNN. You don't go and trying to cut him off and stuff like that. You don't do that, right? You allow him to speak. You give him room to breathe. This is how you earn respect from people like myself who are watching. We're like, yeah, I like the way you're being based. You don't have to agree with the individual. You can fact check the individual. You can say more and challenge some of their points. But what you should not be doing is fighting with them, debating with them consistently on everything that they say, and which is exactly what she did. And she made herself look bad. Anyway, let's take a listen to this because it gets really interesting.
Of the United States. Sebastian Gorka, good afternoon to you.
Greetings. Thanks for having me, Kathie.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the programme. I know Donald Trump is still speaking. He's been speaking for quite some time now. Quite a rambling speech, really. What did you make of it?
Well, he's absolutely right in everything he said. It's a dark day for the fabric of rule of law in America. It's a little bit like the Dreyfus trial. This isn't about politics. This is whether or not we have a blindfold on Lady Justice or not. Because he's right. If they can do this to the most famous man in the world, who is now the leader of the opposition, they can do it to any American that the elite, that the judicial hack representatives of the left wish to target. So it's an outrage. We are 5 months away from the election. The president, as he said yesterday when he left the courtroom, the real verdict will be on November the 5th. But this is about one thing and one thing alone: stealing an election before the first ballot is even cast.
Well,
there was no crime. Ask a Democrat to tell you what the crime was. And the fact that this judge, in contravention of New York state law, illicitly gave donations to the Joe Biden campaign and to an anti-Trump PAC. The fact that his daughter, Lara Merchant, has made $93 million off the Democrats, off her father's trial in the last 5 months is an absolute outrage.
Right.
So,
Sebastian, let me just come in.
Transparent. This is against the rule of law.
Okay, let me just come in on 2 points you made there. You quoted him saying, if they can do this to me, they can do this to anyone. But he committed a crime. So ordinary people have to hang on a second.
Now she made this statement, right? He committed a crime. Now he's going to challenge her. What was the crime?
Ordinary people have to pay their dues. If you could just let me finish the question.
Kathie,
Ordinary
Kathie,
people
what
have
was-
to pay their
Kathie,
dues. So shouldn't he pay
Kathie, what
his
was the
dues as
crime?
well?
Kathie, what was the crime? Can you tell me what the crime was?
Well, it's been set out. The payment of the hush money,
no, you're
inverted
so
commas. He
sure of
calls it an
yourself. Tell me what
NDA.
the crime is, Kathie.
Sorry, but we have heard we have heard in
if I don't
court
have to go
what
full
the
Jordan
trial
Peterson on you,
is.
tell me what the crime was.
What's the crime,
Hang on a
Kathie?
sec. I want you to just.
Kathie, what is the crime? You can't dance around this because hush money, what they call it, is an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. That's not a crime. That's a very common thing. For example, what is his name? Tucker Carlson, when he left Fox News, he signed a non-disclosure agreement and took a lump sum of money. And as long as that agreement stands, sometimes it's for 5, 6, 7 years, whatever, you can't speak against the company. You cannot say anything negative about that. If you do, it can come after you. It can sue you and so on. That's just a very common practice. You don't have to agree with it. But I'm just telling you, that's just something that is very common and respected in our culture. But to say that for him to do that, to protect his family, protect his legacy, who knows what the reasons were, it's a crime. Yeah, you can say morally that was wrong. It's unchristian. And now you're talking about something that he has to take with the Lord. But if you're saying that the court system now has to use that against him, it's like, well, what about the Clintons? What about, the Epsteins? What about all these other people who's been doing a whole bunch of stuff? What about these politicians who get in office with $0 in their pocket? By the time they're done in the next few years, they are millionaires. How did that happen, public servants? But all of a sudden, Trump is the worst criminal on the face of the earth. You gotta be kidding me. And she cannot articulate the crime.
Respond to my question.
No.
And then we'll talk about what's been laid out in court.
What was the crime, Kathie?
We've heard all of that in court for many weeks now. I want to ask.
It should be easy for you to tell me.
Listen, you are such a great reporter. It should be easy for you to tell me what the crime was. She has no idea. But again, what she's repeating are the same talking points from the media. She has not done her research correctly.
The crime he was found guilty of.
He paid the hush money. There's a series of crimes. Look, I'll go through that in a second.
Hang on. That's not a crime in America. It's called a non-disclosure agreement.
Let's do this. Okay. I'm going to answer your question, and then I want you to answer mine. Okay?
Non-disclosure agreements are not a crime in the UK.
Right. Let me spell it out for you then, because with Donald Trump's approval, his former lawyer, Michael Cohen, paid Stormy Daniels $130,000 to stay silent about an alleged sexual encounter.
It's called an NDA.
So, hang on a sec.
Where's the crime?
I'm telling you what the crime is, if you just let me finish. And the purpose of that was not to derail Trump's 2016 campaign. He then approved a fraudulent scheme to disguise that reimbursement to Cohen as legal expenses to hide the hush money. And in doing that, he ran...
was proven in court.
Wait, so in doing that, he ran... You asked me the question. You asked me the question. Let me just finish. He then ran into trouble with the election rules, which amounted to election fraud, pure and simple. Right, I've answered your question.
Kathie, were you in the court?
Nope.
I was in the court. So let me tell you what happened. The president's lawyer paid a porn actress out of his private money as an NDA agreement, a non-disclosure agreement, which is utterly legal.
Right.
Then the same lawyer, after the election in January, was paid by the Trump organization for legal services.
Yep.
The state of New York said that the classification of the payment as legal services in January after the November election somehow undermined the election. That's a bit weird, because that act of reclassification of a business expense would have to have gone back in time to before the election.
Sebastian.
So they're taking a business expense, right, that was allocated for whatever it is that happened, under an NDA and so on, whatever, right? They taken that and they turn it into an election fraud. But what really they're attacking Trump for is pretty much one of those weird things. The issue is that they're reading his mind in a sense. It's almost like, we knew you did this for political reasons, to paint a positive image of you so that you can cover up the kind of man you were before you ran for office. But again, this happened before he became president. And again, this happened for other purposes. Who knows? Whether or not he did this, that's beside the point. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to push no gospel to him at the moment. The point of the matter is to say it is a crime for a man to do that. You have to go back and you have to deal with the Clintons. You have to go back and address Epstein and every one of his friends and the little black book. You have to address all these people who've been found guilty of many different things similar to that, who have signed NDA for different purposes. And some reason is also political. To say that all of a sudden Trump is the worst thing, you just being dishonest, is just because your Trump derangement syndrome is out of control and you refuse to reason from cause to effect.
The Farrago, it's a joke, and you just lied about what happened in court.
He called her up. You just lied.
Sebastian.
It's a Farrago, it's a joke, you just lied about what happened in court.
Sebastian, you set out your case. I've set out the crime as it was set out in court. If you just let me finish the question, because otherwise it gets really tedious, because I'm trying to do an interview with you and you have to listen to my question.
But the problem is, Kathie Newman, you're not doing a good job interviewing the man. And I'm not saying Sebastian is just flawless, because he's got that grumpy attitude, okay? We can work with that, but he's base, he's honest, he's straight to the point kind of guy, sharpshooter. But the thing is, if you are interviewing him, you should not be debating him. You should not be debating him. You should allow him to articulate his point because he's coming to your channel. Can you imagine I bring you to my channel and I'm fighting with you consistently when I'm supposedly trying to get an understanding about your position about something? Yes, I can have a different view. Yes, I can show you my perspective of the same idea. But what I must not be doing is to disrespect you, is to downplay you, is to cast you to the side. That doesn't make you a good interviewer either.
And then say
You're
what you
not
want
doing
in
an
response.
interview.
What I
spewing
want,
garbage, but
so
go ahead.
Sebastian, I've set.
He said you're spewing garbage. Some of these people, they need to go to Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, and watch how interviews are run. They will learn a whole lot. That's not how these men do it.
Say what you want in response. What I want,
garbage,
so Sebastian, I've set out in response to your query what the alleged crime was. That has now been proven in court over many weeks. It's all been litigated in court. So just as a normal person would have to pay the price for breaking the law, so should Donald Trump, no matter that he's a president.
What law?
So courts never bring the wrong decision, right, Kathie? Never.
Good question. She's making it seem like the courts cannot be wrong about some things. Like, this is weird.
So courts never bring the wrong decision, right, Kathie?
Mm-hmm.
Never happened in British history. Nobody has ever been convicted, and the conviction was wrong, and they were later released. Has that
but
ever happened
you're now impugning the American justice system, and that has very dangerous consequences.
Don't do that. The justice system in America is not all that great either. Like, yeah, you can say there were times things were better and stuff like that, but it's been hijacked long time ago. It's been hijacked for a lot of people group, especially for black people. Listen, it doesn't work for everybody. There are people who gets away with stuff that should have been behind bars. There were people who should have been given a second chance that are behind bars. There are people who really did very small things that got themselves in big trouble. That justice system doesn't work for everyone. Yes, it's better to have it than not having it, but to act like it is perfect, you're out of your mind.
Doesn't it? In terms of, the peace and harmony of America.
Stop it.
It is utterly dead.
If you don't criticize the justice system to a degree, you can never get it fixed because some of the flaws that are in it, it has to be exposed. In other words, if you want to fix something, you have to actually be able to identify what's wrong with the thing. And if you can't not identify what's wrong with our justice systems and actually see that something is wrong here, what's happening to Trump is showing you and I there's something wrong with our justice system. If you cannot articulate these factors, like what can we talk about? What can we say? So are we supposed to just sit back and take it? And again, if they could do this to a former president, somebody, is there any hope for you and I? Are we in trouble?
And think about what Juan Merchan did 3 days ago. Absolutely unprecedented in legal history, not just in America, but anywhere else. First things first, he said, you know that thing where the defense gets to speak last before the jury, before they retire, so they can rebut what the prosecution says?
Okay.
We're not doing that. The prosecution is going to get the last say.
Right. And how do you expect the American public to respond?
That thing about the
Sebastian,
12 jurors having to unanimously
Sebastian, if you
agree,
just carry on talking and we can't have a conversation, it gets very...
But the thing is, he's not done talking. You're not allowing him to finish.
Very tedious.
If 4 of you, why do you not listen to my answers?
But because you're not listening to my questions. I'm sorry, I'm asking you a question and you're just talking over me.
You asked me whether there are dangerous consequences to impugning the justice system's veracity.
Yeah, and I'm asking you specifically how you expect the American public to respond.
Kathie, this is a horrible interview. This is the worst I've seen from her.
Is the question or not?
Sebastian Gorka, I'm trying to ask you the questions, but I'm sorry, I'm not getting many answers, so I think we're going to have to end this interview. Sebastian Gorka, thank you very much, former Deputy Assistant to the President of the United States.
Yeah. Well, Kathie, that was horrible. Don't ask me. Listen to the comments. What did they say? She's a joke. Oh, man. Does anyone still take Kathie Newman seriously after her encounter with Jordan Peterson a few years ago? I remember that. That was brutal. This woman should work at a car wash. That's just great. Kathie is quite a pathetic interviewer. Yeah. He didn't break any law. This is BS. What crime, Kathie? What's the crime, Kathie? She is useless at interviews. Exactly. I don't mean to go after Kathie, but I don't know what in the world she's trying to do. She's trying to prove, but she did a horrible job with this. And again, if you cannot articulate what the crime was, And again, you bring the person you bring Sebastian to you want to talk to him about what happened, and you're not allowing him to speak his mind. What's the point? But again, Sebastian handled her pretty good, challenged her. He said, "You're spewing garbage. You don't know what you're talking about. You can even articulate the crimes and so on." But that was pretty amazing discussion thing. I think that was really nice. It was just a little messy to deal with, but again, it goes back to show many people that are talking about this situation really don't understand it. You don't have to understand every single detail of it, but on the surface, it's very obvious there's some serious political corruption going on here. It's like Trump. It's like Gotham City kind of thing. Trump was guilty before he went to face the judge. This was intentional. Alvin Bragg and everybody was in place in a pool of jury, and then all of a sudden, this judge was selected for the case. He wasn't even supposed to be in that case. And again, there's a whole history of the things that he's done, supporting Democrats, his daughter and everything, made over 90 something millions of dollars on this stuff. So it's like when you really think about what is being done, what is being said, it's like, how can you look at that and think this is a good thing for the justice system of this country? And it goes back to show that, again, it goes back to what Trump says. If they could do this to me, they will do it to you. And Trump said, I'm standing in the way. I'm standing in the way because they want to get to you, but they can't get to you if I stand in the way. And the thing is, if this could be done to Trump so publicly, friends, we are in serious trouble. We are in serious trouble. I remember when they went after Trump while he was in office, a little bit before the end of his election in 2020, right? And before January 6th, Twitter canceled a sitting president, block him from speaking. And I said, if Twitter could do this to Trump, we are in trouble. What happened then? After Trump was out of office, what happened online, on Twitter, and the speech of every individuals? Marjorie Taylor Greene, you name it, Benny Johnson, Alex Jones, all these different people, and many more. I can't think of any names right now, but many more. They were censored, they were removed, canceled, blocked, and were not allowed to speak. And I said, yeah, well, if you took Trump down, you can do this to the little guys. And it's the same thing that's going on now. If you can find a crime for Trump for these behaviors, what's going to happen to the parents who are protesting, those who are pro-life, those who have a position? What about those who have a religious view? What about those who want to preach the word and tell the truth and share the gospel, or even say something against the culture? If you can get Trump for something like this, those of us who are in a smaller seat, right, of little value, insignificant people like us, we are in serious trouble. We are in serious trouble. If you can persecute Trump, what are you going to do to us? And this is why when we look at that, we're like, yo, we can't allow that to happen, because otherwise we're going to set a very negative precedence here. But I think also the retaliation from the right is not good for the country either. And I kind of agree with what Dr. Phil was saying the other day. He's kind of like, we need to come to a place where we can forgive each other and work past this, because if not, tick for tack, back and forth, retaliations and vengeance is gonna keep happening. I don't think Donald Trump is gonna do that. I don't see him as the kind of guy who's going to retaliate. I got an interview of him coming up where he's gonna address this, but I will say, I don't want to start setting that precedence though, because it could lead there. But anyway, much more could be said about that. Share your thought and perspective with me if you like this video. Like and subscribe to the page. Click the bell icon for more. Link in the description below. Stay with us on Patreon, by the way. Until next time, have a good one. Bye.